Was that the sound of someone pricking the bubble? Yes, it was. Welcome back to worst lead-in ever. Dr. Brant Raven.
Present.
Mike the Llama here. Our little podcast where we attempt to traumatise each other by saying outrageous things about various topics.
Hopefully make you think a little bit as well. No, this is Dr. Brant Raven. I'm here with the Llama himself, and
I only have a master's. That's why I don't. I'm not a Dr. Llama.
Well, you know, it's education's an interesting thing. We can talk about that as well,
and we won't. But that's okay.
But how are we going? How's life treating you?
Going okay. I have to say the emails are off the chart.
The emails are off the chart.
They are just going nuts. Ask me about one.
No, look, I don't think I will.
You won't?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, I don't think I will.
I can get that doctorate if I want as well. Some of the emails are offering me offering me some new things as well.
Oh, right, that's what you mean by off the charts.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Today.
What are we doing today? What's our topic for today?
We did hint at it last podcast where I asked you what you thought about gender remakes.
Oh, gender remakes.
And I'll tell you why this is something that's popped into my brain as something that's worth talking about. It's because it doesn't seem to be ending. There is, I'm not saying whether I have a problem with it or not, but I would say one of my favourite films is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It's itself a remake.
Right.
But just out in the cinemas at the moment, while we're talking, is a film called The Hustle, which is starring Anne Hathaway, Rebel Wilson.
Yes.
I quite like both of them. They're good. But it is effectively a remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which has had the gender reversal thing going on.
Now, who was in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels again? That was
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, that's right.
And Steve Martin.
Yeah.
With Glenn Headley as the
the
lady in that. So
what an amazing actor Michael Caine is, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Steve Martin's a very good comedian. But yes, your question.
My question is, why are we doing this? Is it necessary? Does it make the films better? Are we just remaking a lot of things? So we've had, think about the ones we've had recently.
Yes.
We've had
Ghostbusters.
Which didn't go so well. I actually quite enjoyed it. Thought it was all right.
Haven't seen it. I've seen the original, of course.
Yeah. So we have Ocean's 8. So that's Sandra Bullock. So you're familiar with the Ocean's 11?
I am.
Yeah. So Ocean's 8 is...
Which itself is a remake of the original Frank Sinatra. Yeah.
Correct. So Ocean's 8 is... Sandra Bullock is George Clooney's sister.
Yeah.
And so, for those of you without visual aids for this podcast, he rolled his eyes. And so we have that. So they're doing the same sort of thing. They're trying to do a heist type thing. We have a female doctor now for Doctor Who.
Oh.
Yeah, right. So my question is, I mean, there was talk of should James Bond be a woman?
Oh, my God.
Well, I just want to know, first of all, clearly I can assess your feelings on the matter, but I want to know why are we having this discussion? Why is this a thing?
I don't know.
Well, that's a short podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
No, look, I don't know. It's obviously a thing. It's obviously not an anomaly. Someone has...
No, it seems to be the way things are going.
It seems to be a concerted effort to bring in and introduce more females into movies and into leading roles and into powerful, big positions. And I personally think that's fantastic.
I have no problem with it.
I've got no problem.
It's not even not having a problem with it. Same as you. I encourage it.
I don't even understand because I've never ever even thought about the subject of why a woman is in a particular position or whatever. It's a movie or whatever. It's a piece of art, which a movie is what it is. And if the protagonist happens to be female, great, so be it. Gender remakes, I think, are atrocious. Atrocious.
Do tell me why.
Because I don't think they add anything. I think remakes at all are pretty atrocious, to be perfectly honest. Okay, and I don't think I've actually seen a remake that sticks in my mind as being fantastic. I don't think there's no movie that I can honestly say I've watched in the last, say, 3 or 4 years that I thought was really, really a good movie anyway, but I think remakes are just terrible.
Okay, well, hold on. So when we're saying remakes, so I've said about how there was a female Ghostbusters. That's not a remake. It's a different story. It's different characters, although some of them have the similar
Yeah, but is it really a different
traits
story?
and things.
I mean, come on.
No, it was. It was a different story.
Oh, okay. It's a different story.
In that they're busting ghosts, that's where it's the same.
So it's marginally better.
Yeah, well,
it's marginally better because it's a little bit different.
But I don't think they're going to just. I mean, the mere fact that something gets remade 20 years later, life has changed in 20 years, or even 30 years, or whatever it is, so that you can't just remake a film and have. Everyone's got mobile phones now, whereas they mightn't have had mobile phones 30 years ago.
Yep.
Well, if they did, they were the size of a brick. So there's going to be changes, which makes it tricky to just do a full-on remake.
Right. So what we're really talking about then is not necessarily the remake, but we're talking about the introduction of more female protagonists.
Well, no, not necessarily that. I mean, you could look at Star Wars, the new Star Wars films, and we won't go into too much depth with that.
Utterly atrocious, but let's keep going.
But the main character in the original Star Wars films was Luke. You would argue it was his story, effectively.
Well, you could make that argument. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so now we have Rey.
Yeah.
She is the person whose story we are following.
Yeah.
That's not the same. That's not the same thing I'm talking about. I understand that that's good, that's fine, and that's just a story. I don't have a drama with that. But when we have something that is already established, so whether it's Ghostbusters or whether it's Ocean's 11 or whether it's 50 years of Doctor Who being a man, why would there be a call to suddenly have these characters or the same type of story as for being a woman? Where is that pushing?
Well, I mean, it's pretty
an
obvious.
agenda, or what is it that
it's pretty obvious why that's happening. It's obvious. One, it's because the makers of that art are trying to capture the female vote. They're trying to capture a female audience, and they believe that the only way of doing that is by creating powerful female type characters, like the Doctor in Doctor Who, right? Very, very powerful character, Time Lord. I can't say I've seen any Doctor Who's with the female Doctor Who, so I can't really comment on.
She's been let down by writing that I think is not as good as what's come, because it's a new showrunner as well.
Right. So there you go. It's actually a really interesting point, because if you are going to make a gender remake, or you're going to introduce into an existing series or sequence of movies a gender change, then the writing that you have to do, the work that you have to do, had better be bloody good.
Well, it has to be almost better than the original.
Because otherwise people are going to pick up on the fact that you've done this gender remake.
Yeah.
Right? Now, a lot of people will argue with that point that I just made and say, well, why does the writing have to be any better than it would be normally? If it's up to a standard X for a man, why can't it be up to standard X for a woman? Well, that's a valid argument as well. That's a pretty valid argument. They shouldn't have to do any more work just because it's a woman. But there is a reality here, and the reality is you are selling an art. You're selling an art form. You're selling a story. And you've had many, many years of the main characters in a particular story or sequence of movies or whatever being men. Now, I'm not going to say that's right or what it is what it is.
It just is. Yeah.
Right? If you now want to introduce a female, fine, you want to do that, but you really don't want to do it in such a way that you're going to put off your audience who've loved your movies or series for such a long time. You want to do it in such a way that they're going to love that new character. And chances are, when you do this, you are going to put some people off. You're definitely going to put some people off and say,
certainly,
and they're going to sit back and say, they're only doing that to meet the female agenda. And you know what? They're bloody right. Those people are right. You know, this is the problem. The problem is that the producers of these things are not taking an action to put a female in place because they think it's going to add something to the sequence of the story. They're doing so to fill an agenda. And that's what's sad about it, because I think me personally, I think you can add powerful characters in without those powerful characters always needing to take centre stage. Take Doctor Who, for example, because that's one of my favourite sci-fis, right?
Not enough to have watched the recent.
The what? Sorry.
So not enough to have watched the recent series.
The recent series I haven't watched, but even the recent series without the female protagonist, I thought were a bit shite. I thought they were a bit heavy on bullshit and crap and just didn't make sense to me. But anyway, what I was trying to get at was, if you look at the Doctor Who's made in some cases in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, they were some pretty good seminal Doctor Who's, and they had powerful female characters. They did. You had Romana, right, who now married to Richard Dawkins, but
not anymore.
Not anymore, really.
No.
Oh wow, that's news to me.
Well, I don't think they needed to ring you, but that's okay.
Right.
She was a Time Lord as well, so that's okay.
You had Romana, you had Jo Grant, you had Sarah Jane Smith. All of those were female characters, and they added a great deal to the series. They weren't minor characters. They weren't characters which were shitty little characters in the background. They weren't ditzy women.
They were strong.
They were strong characters, and they were wonderful characters. Go to any person who loves and appreciates Doctor Who, right, in particular, and talk about those characters. You're not going to find a single person that will look at those characters and think, gee, these are, they were shitty characters, or they were just women. Haha, they were just there because they were women.
But that's kind of the argument they had with, you're familiar with Amy Pond character. So people didn't like her because they said she was a bit ditzy, a bit stupid. But you know what? She still had her good qualities that I think helped balance what was going on with the Doctor, and that's what it's all about.
I would agree, and I was lucky enough to see the series where Amy Pond was one of the characters, the companion, and again, I agree with you. I think she may have had her ditzy moments, but they didn't stand out, not to me anyway.
No, I don't think they didn't to me either.
No, so I thought she had a couple of powerful moments.
She was quite human.
Yeah, absolutely, very human, very good characterization and part of the whole story. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a shit story. I didn't like the story, but I didn't think that this character. She didn't
ruin it because she was a ditzy girl.
No, and she didn't ruin it because she was a girl. And but this is what I'm saying: you don't need a female freaking Doctor. That's it. Bottom line: you don't need a female Doctor to introduce female characters into a series. You can still do that and introduce very, very powerful female characters into a current series, into a current movie series,
without it being the same character.
Without it being so damn obvious. Okay, you don't need those things. How about having a little bit of innovation? How about having a little bit of good storytelling and introduce those characters still as powerful characters?
We know what they did do, and we will move on from Doctor Who. But what they did do previous to the female Doctor was the Master, who was the Doctor's archenemy type character, became a woman. And so you actually had, for a season or two, or maybe 3, you had male Doctor versus female Master, who called herself Missy. And so you had that actual interaction, and you had the strong evil, I guess.
Yeah, but then people are going to argue with that and say, well,
if it's good enough for them, why isn't it good enough for the
why did evil have to be represented by a woman in this case? If you really wanted to get pedantic about it, and you really wanted to, you could make that argument. Believe me, you could really. The feminists could make that argument. Okay, why does it have to be an evil woman? Why can't it be an evil man? Well, you know what? It was an evil man for a long time. But again, I would say to you, why did the Master have to be a woman at all? Why couldn't the Master have had a companion that was just as evil, and that person could have been a woman? I don't know.
I'd be happy with that. I'd actually quite like that.
You know, why could there not have been a woman character that was working against both the Master and the Doctor? I mean, you could have that as well. There's so many different iterations that you could do. And again, there's all I'm saying is that you don't need to take a female character and stick her in a very strong role just to prove the point that you're taking females into consideration.
To a certain extent, I think that what it does is it shows the opposite.
I agree.
You've already established a character. You've already established how strong that particular character is. And so even for an existing movie, so a successful movie, let's do the female version of it. You know, there are plenty of other films that I've seen that have never been a male film.
Yes.
That have strong female characters.
Absolutely.
And I quite enjoy them just as I would any other film.
Absolutely.
The problem I have is that making an issue of it, I understand why it's important to have strong female role models. I'm not doubting that. You'd be stupid to doubt that. But the problem, and I guess this is why I asked the question, is why does it have to be an existing character that's changed? So the question that I was thinking, it wasn't a question, the thing that I was thinking about before, think of Agatha Christie.
Yes.
We have strong character, Miss Marple.
Miss Marple.
Solved all these crimes and did all these things, but you didn't then have a Mr. Marple.
No.
You had a completely different character, Hercule Poirot, who did the same thing.
Yes.
But was just a different character.
Yes.
What is wrong with that?
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
That is actually the solution in my brain to, well, not a solution, it's not something that needs to be solved, but that's actually the way to do it. You have two strong characters. Did they ever meet?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know what they ever meet. Oh, there's a bit of homework.
Yeah, that's a very good question. But no, I take your point, and I didn't think of that as an example. And that's actually a bloody good example, because you can look at Hercule Poirot and his...
Pardon my accent for when I said
right.
I did twirl my moustache a little bit, if that helps.
Right, so you could look at that as a character. You could look at this character, and you could look at Miss Marple. But in looking at Hercule Poirot, you are not taking anything away from Miss Marple.
No.
Right, you are looking at those two as completely independent characters. And Miss Marple is actually a wonderful feminine character, wonderful. You know, and she's got it all in the bag. She's an old woman. She's a woman. and she's she's solving all these crimes. Wonderful.
She's the Jessica Fletcher.
Yes.
Before Jessica Fletcher.
Yes, exactly right. And exactly. And there you go. You've got this wonderful, and she's a powerful character without necessarily being powerful. Do you see what I'm saying? She's a
but I would say Hercule Poirot was a bit that way as well. He's not. You know, there is an element of arrogance in the way he does things as well.
Absolutely.
But he's also not necessarily physically powerful.
That's exactly right. And in fact, much is made of the fact, and he, as a character, makes much of the fact that he isn't physically powerful, that he knows that he can be overpowered. Both of those characters are interesting because they're powerful because of their brains, they're powerful because of their ability to observe. That's why they're powerful. And Hercule Poirot is not any more powerful than Miss Marple because he is a man. He is just as powerful, and she's just as powerful as him. This is what I'm saying about good writing.
Oh, that's right. Which is why I...
And it's and isn't it wonderful? And I think it's quite wonderful that both characters were written by a woman, right? So this is it. This is wonderful. This is obviously a very good piece of literature, a very good piece of writing that she's done. And there are a lot of very good female only that will, okay, so take for example, let's jump into video games and talk about Tomb Raider, for example.
Okay? Lara Croft.
Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. Now, here you have...
Did she have to be sold to people by having big jugs? and I mean that in a very respectful way.
You
don't think that there was
what's your argument?
My question is, the main audience for video games at the time that Lara Croft Tomb Raider things came out was who? Yes. It was you sitting in your basement.
Well, not me specifically.
Yeah, you were. You were sitting. We were all sitting in a basement somewhere, with video games. So I would say the target audience was a teenage boy.
Well, let's be clear on this and not give our listeners the wrong impression.
No.
I did not have a basement to begin with, okay? And
that's true.
Lara Croft came on the scene when I had almost stopped playing video games, and it wasn't...
Did it drag you back?
No, it dragged my interest back into it, but Lara Croft... Tomb Raider was not the sort of video game that I enjoyed playing anyway. It was a bit of a first-person motion type, and I wasn't really into those when they first came out. But anyway, the point that I'm making is...
You're into Pong?
Well, yes, I was into Pong. That's right. Back in the... When did Lara Croft came out? Mid-90s or something?
Something like that.
Yes, I was into Pong, Llama. I was into Pong. No, I'm just saying, the point that I'm trying to make is... You've got a very, very powerful female character who then went onto the big screen, of course, represented by Angelina Jolie, a beautiful, beautiful woman.
It was remade again recently by, I have no idea. I haven't seen it yet.
And again, it's such an interesting progression, okay? It really, really is an interesting progression. How wonderfully interesting that you bring that up. Because,
Thank you.
Okay, so let's unpack some of those things. I think, and I've got no way of knowing or proving this, but just my own
I'm happy to make outrageous claims. That's good.
Wonderful. Let's get into the realm of religion then.
That's right.
But no, in all honesty, I think that Lara Croft would have done well even if she was represented without having big breasts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then why did they do it?
I think they did it because it was easier for her to be accepted by the video gaming market if she had big breasts.
Wasn't that kind of what I was just getting at? It was aimed at teenage boys.
But I think, okay, so they did it as a point of marketing, but I think it would have done well even if it wasn't marketed in that way.
Okay.
I've got no way of knowing that, of course. Right?
No,
that's just something I think. But what I'm trying to say, though, is that Lara Croft as a female character is a wonderful female character. I would never, ever suggest, and I would laugh my ass off if someone were to suggest that they should now make a male equivalent.
Larry Croft?
Yeah, of Lara Croft. How utterly ridiculous that would be. But if I were going to take a gender balance platform, if I were going to run with that sort of platform, I would say that they should. Oh, well, you've got Lara Croft there. She's female. I now want a Larry Croft because I think we need to balance the genders. No, ridiculous. Ridiculous. Completely stupid. Lara Croft stands on her own 2 feet as a wonderful, wonderful video game, wonderful, wonderful series of movies, wonderful piece of writing. Now, let's go in and explore the whole idea that Lara Croft was remade. Well,
did you see the remake?
I did see it and I enjoyed it. And I thought that I don't remember the name of the actress. I think she was Norwegian.
If only there was some way to look it up, he says, reaching for his phone. Keep talking. Can you tell me while I look it up?
But notice that, they went from Angelina Jolie, and a lot of the commentary that was made about the new actress was that her breast size was much smaller. And I watched it, and I didn't
even notice?
I can't say that I noticed. I just thought it was a great romp. It was
Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, Norwegian. Am I right to say?
I'm not Norwegian, and that's reflected in the way I pronounced her Norwegian name, probably.
Right.
But that's...
Okay.
Yes.
But no, I thought she did a great job. Beautiful woman, obviously.
Swedish.
I was close enough. Look,
nice.
Sorry for all.
We all like being called New Zealanders here as well.
Sorry for insulting any Swedes or Norwegians out there. But no, look. Beautiful actress, wonderful movie. I thought I really enjoyed it. Good adventure. Not one point did I look at it and say, and I'm shaking my head vigorously here. At not one point did I look at that movie and think, oh wow, how terrible. Why doesn't she have big breasts? No.
However, you did just refer to her as a beautiful actress. Have you ever watched Indiana Jones and said, that Harrison Ford, he's a handsome actor?
Well, you know what? I can't say that I've thought of it myself, but I know that he's a handsome guy. I know he's a handsome guy, and I can say that without any equivocation. I mean, and there's a lot of very good-looking male actors out there. It doesn't mean simply because I'm a guy and I like women. So of course I'm going to notice beautiful women. Okay, that's as simple. But I'm not. But it's as simple as that. But I'm also a thinking guy, and I'm very comfortable with who I am with my sexuality. So I have absolutely
not a topic for a future podcast.
Yes, exactly. So I have absolutely no problem looking at a guy or a male actor and saying that's a good-looking guy. And I can understand why some women might find Harrison Ford, who as a very good-looking guy, and Clint Eastwood,
a very good-looking grandfather, I believe.
Well, I mean, but this is my point, right? I'm comfortable saying that. No, I didn't say that when I saw Indiana Jones, another fantastic movie. I didn't say that. No, why didn't I say that? I didn't say that because he's a guy and I don't like guys. It's as simple as that. I like women, and when I see a beautiful woman, I'm going to say that's a beautiful woman. There's nothing wrong with that. That's simply, it's biology. It's my biology. Well, I'm not going to apologise for that.
You should go sit in the corner for a little while. I guess.
But keeping on the topic, let's go to James Bond, right?
Yes.
Because James Bond is an interesting one.
Because it's certainly not so much. This is not so much the gender issue now. There's been a lot of talk, not for a Joan Bond as such, but for a black James Bond.
Right.
Ridiculous. Idris Elba, is that the guy who was?
Well, I don't know.
Possibly had his name down.
I don't know. Fucking ridiculous.
Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because
each of those other previous James Bonds have all been a different person.
You could have a black James Bond like character, but you can't have a black James Bond any more than you can have a black Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, but hold on.
No, but the point is,
he did help the slaves get free.
Again, and I'm not trying to bring any synergy into the.
No. Hold on, I'm going to discredit what you're saying. The James Bonds we've had, one's been Scottish,
right?
One's been English,
right?
We've had Irish. Where's George? He's Australian. No. Hold on, they're all different nationalities. So what's to say? None of their names are actually James Bond. That's effectively like their 007 name, isn't it?
Well, no, but we've had the actors. You're describing all the actors.
No, if you listen to their accents, Sean Connery, it's very hard to say he was anything other than Scottish.
Whatever, Scottish, English, Irish. But those are the actors that played the role. Those are the actors. The role they were playing was of a character, James Bond, who happens to be an English spy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while
a black Englishman.
While I may have some difficulty suspending my belief that some of the accents in a lot of the movies didn't sound particularly English, why I may have had that difficulty, I'm going to have an impossible task suspending my belief that I've got a black James Bond. James Bond is simply not a black character. It's that simple.
I guess we have a source material, don't we? Where he was just a white English guy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same way as saying. It's the same way as saying, why I brought Abraham Lincoln into it. Abraham Lincoln is a character from history, happens to be a real person, but a character nonetheless, right? Because he's been portrayed from history. No, it would be a little bit ridiculous to have a black Abraham Lincoln unless you want to go down the rabbit hole of saying, we've got an alternate universe, an alternate Earth. We're not talking about that, right? We're talking about whether an established character can suddenly change gender or skin color. And the answer is no.
So if we're working on the theory, and this is the theory I'm working on, that if it's an established character from literature who looks or sounds or is a certain way, I don't know how you know how they sound if it's from literature. Here's another one. Think of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right.
Which I
didn't like, by the way, but anyway.
Well, you're allowed to be wrong. That's okay. So we have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which originally came out as a radio play. So the sounds and the versions of the people who are in that are well established. Yet when it came to TV, they changed the Trillian character. She was an American. So suddenly she was a different person. When they made the movie in around 2000, 2001 or whatever it was, Ford Prefect was played by a black guy,
Yep.
Mos Def, I believe. How is that right? And what I'm trying to establish is, are we where is the difference between something that I'm comfortable with just because I've learned or grown up with something the way it is, and me being able to push that aside and accept that just because something was the way it was originally doesn't mean it has to stay that way. So, that's the reason. That's the reason life has changed for the better in certain areas. We don't have black slaves anymore. We don't abuse people. Well, I never did any of this stuff, but we don't abuse people from a different nationality. Because
hang on, we're talking about a lot of different things.
Well, no, we're not. We're talking about how society progresses, so that things that you hold on to as something that you believe is the way it is. So whether it's Ghostbusters should be Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, all those guys, or whether they could be a bunch of women, one of them also black as well, that like the same as Ernie.
All I'm saying is that in the case of, say, something like Ghostbusters, you can't have... I can't remember the names of the original characters, but you can't...
Egon,
okay.
There's one. Let's go for one.
I can't have the character of Egon being played by a woman who's also called Egon. That doesn't make sense, because in terms of the story itself, you had a character called Egon, and that character was a man, right? In the case of James Bond is a white English man. That's it. Now, you may want to introduce a 008 or a 009 or whatever, and that guy can be a black man. That's completely fine.
Okay, so the characters were not the same.
Right.
They didn't have the same names in Ghostbusters.
Right, and I didn't think they did. I haven't seen the movie. I didn't think they did.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have a look at it.
So is that good? Does that make it better?
It makes it better, but it doesn't necessarily make it...
necessary.
Yes, yes. There's a lot there. There's a lot there, right? There's a lot there to unpack. And you've got to ask the question, why do we need a black James Bond? I mean, take, for example, Shaft. Right? Shaft, going back from the 60s.
We wouldn't have a white Shaft?
Yeah, no, it would be ridiculous.
What if you had a black female Shaft?
No, because Shaft is a particular character, right? And one of the recent movies, which was Samuel L. Jackson, I think, remade a movie.
He was the Shaft.
He was the Shaft.
Yeah.
Did a wonderful, wonderful job. That's what I'm saying. We can't now have a racial... We can't claim that to be a racial imbalance because simply there's no white Shaft and we need to have a Shaft-like character that happens to be white. No, that's just stupid. What I'm saying is the Shaft character is a wonderful, wonderful character. And there's a whole bunch of movies and a whole bunch of TV series where you've got wonderful characters that are female or black or Asian or whatever minority you want to introduce, that are wonderful characters and fit within a particular sequence of movies or stand on their own as a character in a particular sequence. And we don't need anything more. I think they're wonderful. What we need is great writing and great storytelling, and those characters will come to the fore. And maybe when I'm telling a story, when I'm sitting and I'm as a writer and I'm devising a story, maybe I need to think about whether I can build the story around a female type character and explore that idea, right? Before I make the movie, before I write the book, maybe I can tell, I can do it that way. I just finished reading a book called The Jerusalem Puzzle. You saw me tweet on this, right? Which was
second
fundamentally flawed by me because I didn't read the first in the series. I read the second in the series. But in the book, there's a reasonably strong-minded male character.
Who was female in the first book. You didn't know that, did you?
No, and there's a reasonably strong-minded female character. And the strong-minded female character is really, really very, very strong-minded. I don't want to spoil the story, but she ends up in a particular situation in the book. When I read this book, I didn't feel that the situation she ended up in, the story, demeaned the character at all. I felt that she was very much part of the story, very much part of the whole makeup of what happened.
But
in the
was
story.
all that acceptable because there was a strong male character as well?
Well, I don't. Are you saying Are you saying, was it acceptable only because a strong
no,
male character existed?
No,
or-
I'm saying you didn't think about it as being an issue, the gender of a strong
No,
character.
I didn't think about
because
it.
they were both there.
It was just a great story, but if I'm forced to think about it in the context of this discussion, I look back and I think that was a great female character, and I enjoyed reading that female character. And the author, Lawrence O'Leary, I think, was the author.
He says,
Sorry, Lawrence O'Brien. Lawrence O'Brien was the author. The author did a wonderful job at making me feel something for these characters. And I felt something for the guy character as much as I felt for the female. I didn't feel something for the female because as a male I should be taking care of females. No. I felt something for the female because the female worked hard to be who she was. The author wrote the character really, really well. And it makes me look forward to whatever the next book's going to be. Okay, so that for those that are interested, The Jerusalem Puzzle. Excellent book. But read the first one first.
Not the best place to pick up on the series.
No, read the first one first, The Istanbul Puzzle. Okay?
If they're going through all the cities of the world, this could be a very long series.
Well, the third in the series is the New York Puzzle, which is also, I think, very good. But look, again, all I'm really saying is we don't need to be blatant about the introduction of female roles and characters into these sorts of stories. I think they do really, really well and stand on their own 2 feet. And as a feminist, and I'm not a raging feminist, but if I were a raging feminist, I would be really offended by anyone trying to just simply introduce a female character simply because it's a female. In fact, that's the whole antithesis of what you're trying to do.
That's what I was actually going to get at beforehand. I think, in a way, it kind of goes against the entire point of why these people believe they're introducing these characters.
Yeah.
And I understand that young girls and not so young girls, and not only that, young boys as well, should have female role models. And I accept that. I completely accept that. I encourage that. But I think you're right. I believe it somewhat sends the wrong message, where it's like, well, you know what? This strong male role model, we're just going to change them into a female. Or, as the case with Ghostbusters, we have an established story, we have an established universe, we're now going to produce the same characters, not the same characters, the same sorts of characters with their various quirks and things, and have them as females instead. I was trying to think of an early version of where the roles might have been reversed the other way. And the only thing I can really think of initially is Dora the Explorer.
Yes.
And she had her own show, that's her series, but what branched out from that was Diego, her cousin, who was effectively doing the same things.
Right.
So there's one where the roles have, I guess, been reversed, but for the male version
stupid.
of it. So, yeah, well...
Again, that's stupid.
Well, I can only assume they did it as a marketing ploy.
They did,
to appeal to boys
No,
rather than
absolutely
girls.
right, and that's exactly why they freaking well did it, right? So you had this male character to appeal to boys, which is fucked up. And
I think it was stupid.
And I agree with I completely disagree quite strongly that should have been done. You know, why wouldn't you just stick with your main character, Dora the Explorer, and the fact that she's a girl is fucking irrelevant. You know, make her attractive, and I don't mean this in the beauty sense.
Yeah.
Make her attractive in the storytelling sense to boys. Work hard at doing that rather than taking the shortcut of creating a fucking, male character. That's fucking stupid.
I thought it was
and it makes me angry. I wasn't fully aware that was the case, but it makes me angry when I hear that, and that's why I'm swearing a lot. I don't like to swear, especially on our podcast, but it makes me angry because I just think it's a shortcut that people take.
Yeah.
And again, the introduction of a female Ghostbusters, that's just another freaking shortcut, right? That's stupid. Why don't you just write very good stories with very good female characters? You can do that, and it has been done.
How about the argument then? So if you write a very good story about some female people who go around catching ghosts and you call it spirit catchers, Isn't someone going to say, "Oh, that's just a female Ghostbusters"?
Well, they may do that, but that's my point. Why come up with spirit catchers? Why come up with
because I was on the spot and came up with a terrible name.
Why come up with anything like that? You could come up with so many other different stories, and there's so many good stories in history, you know, that you could draw from. There's the stories of female warriors in history, very powerful characters who gave their male rivals a run for their money. You know, you could draw on all that knowledge and you could create new stories from all that knowledge. You don't need to look at creating a female freaking Ghostbusters. And again, Hollywood did this because Hollywood is fucking lazy, right? That's why they did this. There's no other reason. It's because there's no thinking involved or required, right? That's what I'm saying. In all our lives, in all the storytelling that exists, there's a lot of female, very, very powerful female characters that you could expand on, you know, and create wonderful stories for, and come up with great games, great, you know, Carmen Sandiego, for example. There's one.
Yeah, that was good.
You know, there's a Dora the Explorer like
from
character,
the 80s. Yeah,
you know? Now, you know, should they come up with a male version of Carmen Sandiego? No, that's stupid. No, you know, I don't want to see that. You know.
Yeah. Well,
this is what I'm saying.
I can't say that we've necessarily solved anything, but I think we're probably.
No, but I don't think we were aiming to solve.
Well, I don't think we're.
I think it's more about discussing the topic.
Yeah.
Of what is it? Gender.
Oh, gender which kind of changed into a racial remake as well, and I guess.
Well, the things are all connected, aren't they?
Yeah, that's
all
right.
Connected.
Yeah, it's about non-white male remake.
Yeah. Now again,
but I don't have a fundamental drama or concern with it happening, but I think you're right. It should be. It would be much better and much more rewarding for it to be a successful character on its own, whether it's a female or whether it's someone from a different, not a white male type background. You know, like you say, there's plenty of stories out there. There's plenty of opportunities to write these stories.
There are, and I would also say, look, it's interesting. The Star Wars universe, which is the one that I sort of enjoy the most, or had enjoyed the most before they fucked it up.
Allegedly,
right? That's an interesting universe. I never really thought that Luke was always the main character of the first, and I didn't really necessarily think it was his story. I did see
I think it started out that way. The original film, he's the hero, effectively.
I did see it as being,
spoiler alert,
you know, part of Leia's story as well. I saw, but Star Wars is unique in a particular way because there's multiple stories, there's multiple threads and multiple lines of story there, which is wonderful in itself. But the last piece of crap that they produced, which was what?
The Last Jedi?
Was that
the one you're talking about? Oh, there was a Han Solo film.
No, I forget that one. The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi, yeah.
Is that the one with the...
the one you didn't like, yes, that is that one.
That one. It only occurred to me afterwards that there was a lot of females in that movie. It only occurred to me afterwards. So I didn't like the movie at all. And I go on record for saying that it is one of the worst movies I've seen in a very, very long time. If anyone were to say that it's part of the Star Wars universe, then in my opinion, they're an idiot. But that has nothing to do with the fact that the characters were all female. That's absolutely nothing. I thought when I was watching it, I was sitting there not enjoying the various storylines.
Yeah.
But the various storylines were what they were.
And we're not gender dependent.
No, and the fact that they were all females, it didn't even occur to me. Whereas I read later that a lot of fans got upset at the fact that
they're the moronic fans.
Right, and I just couldn't understand that. Yeah. I looked at it and I thought, why would you get upset that you had a whole bunch of stories being told and that the main characters were female? It just happened to be what it was.
Yeah.
The commanders were female. You know, the pilots in the X-wings were female.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's just what it was. I mean, it didn't detract from the story that it was. Unfortunately, it was just a shit story. So that's my point. That's ultimately what my point is. Come up with some good stories. Come up with good stories. Those people that critiqued that movie, not one of them who did a good critique of the movie said, "Oh, there were too many females." Not one. They all talked about the story and how it didn't work and how it didn't work with all the other Star Wars stories. Not one of them said, "Oh, yes, and it had too many females." No one said that.
No, that's true.
I don't know why some fans did. And again, maybe they're just more moronic than other fans.
I think with any society, there is a proportion who are morons. So,
well, anyway, I don't know how we are for time. But,
well, I think we're just about at the end. I think we should probably be wrapping things up. But
look, I'd certainly like to see more women in everywhere, everyday life, not just in movies. I think women are amazing in everything that they do. Not all women, of course, but then not all guys are amazing. No, right?
We don't need to say not all men or not all women.
What I would say is that in my life and my work life, I've had a lot of women who were a lot of women bosses, and they've all been great. I've never had a problem with them at all. And
why would you?
And I've never seen them play the gender card, by the way. But I know a lot of guys probably did have a problem with them, and those guys are just idiots. And you're going to get idiots in every situation in every society. So I'd love to see more women in more powerful positions. I'd love to see them more on the screen. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see a woman getting a job just because she's a woman. I don't want to see a woman making a movie or remaking a movie or getting introduced into a series just because she is a woman. No. Write some good stories.
Replacing a man.
Yeah, replacing a man. No. Write some good stories. Tell some good stories. And if your character happens to be a woman, great. I'll sit there and I'll enjoy that good story. And the fact that she's a woman just happens to be whatever she is. Right? But that's honestly my feeling on the matter. I think
I think we've probably covered it all right. Yeah. So
look, maybe we could do another one of these topics at some point. But
I don't know. But next week we will be hosted by two women instead of us. This will be a completely different podcast.
Dr. Ravina, Dr. Brenda Ravina, because the female equivalent, I will have you know, of Brant is Brenda.
Is it?
It is. Brant
it's Brendan then.
No, it's not Brendan. Well, I don't know, but the word Brant comes from Old Norse, meaning sword.
I often think of you as an Old Norseman.
Right.
Yes.
And if I were able to show you, I would show you my sword. But
very good.
Run for the hills.
Keep it sheathed is what I would say.
But no. The female equivalent of Brant is Brenda.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, that's exciting. I didn't know that.
Yes, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
I have learnt something today.
Right. Is it learnt or learned?
Yes. And a female llama I have looked up is called a dam. So I don't give a damn. I got nothing.
You got nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening in again. We will do this again next time.
Thank you for hosting this again, Llama.
Yes, you're most welcome. And we'll see you for the next one.
Dr. Raven signing off.